Shadow of the Eagle, the Battle of Medellin, 1809, from the Spanish wargame magazine Alea, number 16. Okay, Medellin, 1809. In early 1809, the emperor decided that the French armies in the peninsula would launch a new invasion of Portugal. The plan was to enter Portugal through 3 different routes. Marshal Soult's corps would advance from the north, from Galicia. The corps led by Marshal Victor would cross the border at Badajoz, and the forces under General Lapis would do the same at Ciudad Rodrigo. Following that scheme, after their victory at Ucles, Marshal Victor advanced on to Extremadura in mid-February, whilst General Sebastiani's forces kept an eye on the remains of the Spanish Army of the Center at La Manca. Meanwhile, the General Don Gregorio de la Cuesta, that was at Extremadura since December, was trying to raise a new army in that region. When the Spanish commander decided that he had enough troops, he ordered his army to occupy the left bank of the Tajo, blocking the bridge at Almaraz to prevent the French from crossing there. Okay, so where I stand is this. It makes a difference that I went into this game with essentially no expectations. I didn't know what to expect. Again, not deep into Napoleonics games. Knew nothing about this magazine before. Knew nothing about this magazine. I think this is the very first that I've seen of this magazine. No experience with the system before. The system is not well regarded online. I mean, I think you could say that the entire Shadow of the Eagle series probably stands at about a 5.5, 5.8 on a scale of 10. That's just generally speaking. I mean, I think the impression I've gotten in one place after the other online is nobody seems to say anything strongly one way or the other. So as I've been playing here, I needed to, so in the rules that I pulled a set of rules from the internet, thinking that they were a recent English translation of the series rules, and in fact I do believe they are. So I cannot explain why there are pieces missing. So the game that I got here came with basically a printout of 15, 16 pages altogether, or something like that. That's tables and everything, tables, scenarios, and rules. Actually, I should probably point out the different copies of this rule, the different versions of the rules that I've seen. We're talking about a game that has altogether about 6 or 7 pages of rules. Now, they are very, very sparsely written, but that's that. So there are these different versions. So the game that I got did have, again, it's just a printout copy of an English translation. But I went to the, since I found on the internet what looked like a newer translation, I thought it'd be good to use those. Well, so the rules I was using that I pulled off the internet, I was trying to figure out how to actually implement the fire table results, which seems pretty important. I could not find it anywhere. So the tables that came with the game didn't have an explanation. I should say the English translation of the tables did not have any explanation. And then the English rule set that I pulled from the internet had no explanation for how to do the to implement the, which is funny. You would think that, as a matter of fact. So this is kind of funny it's also kind of instructive, right? So this is my photocopy of the, so this is the translated rule set that came with the magazine, that came in the magazine. It's one-sided, simple, printout, which includes the tables and scenario rules. So I photocopied just to have a working version, right? This is a photocopy of what came in the game. And so with a fire table, you'd think that a simple DM 1, 2, 3 and R table would be simple enough. I mean, I thought it would be simple enough to just figure out. But actually, when I got to that first 1R result from the table, I wanted to be sure. Anyways, when I went to look in the rules that I pulled from online, I couldn't find it anywhere. So what happened was, eventually, just by looking around and comparing things, right there, this is the old rules that came with the magazine. That clearly has how to implement fire results from the table. It tells you how to do R, which, by the way, this is what I mean by I couldn't just go by this table because I didn't know what R meant exactly. I mean, I figured it was retreat, but this is a retreat 1 or 2 hexes at the player's choice. I would not have automatically assumed that. And then it's all the rest. But this whole section on fire results is actually missing from the newer, well, what I assume is a newer online copy of the series of rules. So I'm gonna go forward, and this gets back to expectations. I had no expectations. I'm not really, I can't say I'm disappointed because I had no expectations going into this. So I'm going to continue. I'm just going to bounce between the different rules, and by the way, that includes just sometimes taking a quick look at the Spanish original rules from the magazine, just mainly to see if there's something that basically was never translated, or if there are extra words that are maybe important. So that includes the original. So the original Spanish rules from the magazine, the English translation from the magazine, and the online translation. I'm just going to bounce between them all and try to figure it out and just have fun. Now, having said all of that, it's still true that there doesn't seem to be anything unusual. I mean, I think this is traditional, tried and true Napoleonics. I still don't think there's anything unusual. There's no innovative sequence of play. There's no innovative combat results table. I mean, I hope we're about to do a shock combat here, and we're looking at just a regular old, 1d6. Whoops, I guess it would be the Spanish 1d6 odds table. I mean, just really, again, straightforward. I think simple. So the fire results. So we had our first loss. Where is it? Here. First loss there, and then over on the Spanish right, the artillery, the medium artillery, got a disruption there. One thing, I guess this is really not major, but when I was considering firing this artillery here, this one here, I came from, where did I come from? No, I can't remember where I came from, but I was considering firing this artillery, which I guess I'll do it this way. I was considering firing this artillery, and then I have a bad habit of putting things back where they belong, and then I wound up firing with this artillery. So afterwards I realized that I was not computing for the range difference between light artillery 1 dot and medium artillery 2 dots. So just a little something to remember. It's really not major, but it's I believe it's in the text. I don't believe it's on the tables, but the DRM for light artillery and heavy artillery are on there, but not the ranges. I don't think the ranges are on here. The ranges are in the text. Yeah, the ranges are in the text. So something to remember. The other thing to remember, on the movement factors table, the guerrilla, this is infantry in guerrilla or skirmish formation, which I thought that they should move faster than the formed infantry. This is an example of where, again, this is really small. This is not major at all, but see, I was just skimming the original Spanish, and then I was like, oh, infantry and guerrilla formation. That makes sense. But here they just have guerrilla, which made me, when I first looked at this table very early on, I thought guerrilla was a different kind of unit, and so I kind of missed that little thing. But that's infantry in guerrilla formation, which makes sense, that they would move faster. Okay, so I think, so all the firing's done. That was Spanish offensive fire. I think we go to Spanish shock combat, and I think that these Spanish cavalry can shock combat here. Now we have 3 Spanish light cavalry trying to shock 1 unit of French medium cavalry. I'll zoom in here. There is charge. Charge is really, well again, I guess it depends on what version of the rules, but rules, it was really basic. All right, so from the first set of online rules, charge is just like 1 paragraph. You declare a charge. It's kind of funny because by this version, it's like, when do you declare it? Do you declare it? I mean, because movement is separate from, movement is at the start of the player phase. Shock combat's at the end. There are no charge markers, although maybe a later version of the game in a series does have a charge marker, in which case you finish, maybe you finish your move, you declare your charge, you mark it with a charge counter. That way, when you, at the end of the player phase, when you're going to your shock combats, then you know that you declared. But I guess that's how that's probably supposed to work. But again, it's real basic. You just declare it, you double your combat factor to be eligible. And this is another thing. I'm not sure what was intended here. Actually, might go back to the Spanish. It says, to be eligible, that's for charge, they, cavalry, must have not moved no more than 2 hexes in the movement phase, and must pass a morale check. I'm not sure what to be eligible, they must have not moved no more. It's a double negative. That's what's getting me, double negative there. I'm going to check the other versions, but I think that we're going to have the shock combat here. The other thing is that it is over a crest. I don't know if that's going to make it different. No, there is a shock combat. No, there's a shock column. So here's crest. Okay, so it's only for fire, which is a reminder to check for line of sight, which makes sense. But I don't think these rises. Actually, I think these rises are only significant for line of fire. I don't think they're significant enough elevation changes to influence anything else. So I guess that's not a factor here. But we'll see what we can do here. I think they more or less moved straight. Yeah, that's another thing. See, now I'm in the Spanish shock phase, and it's like, oh, I know what I was going to say. Because I hit the charge rules after moving them, I'm not going to do a charge. That's funny. I'm looking at that now. I wonder if Wonder if light cavalry are meant to actually be able to charge, but I don't see a restriction there. But no, this is going to be normal shock combat. Okay, what's everything that applied here? It's 11 to 4. This is very standard odds rolling. I did check to see if there's a 2.5 to 1 column. There's not. So it was resolved on the 2 to 1 column. The Spanish rolled a 5. It's -2 for the morale differential. All the Spanish are E morale against the French C morale, so it's -2, but +1 for the attackers having it in attack order. So for net -1, a roll of 5 -1 is 4. On the 2 to 1 column is a BL, which is both losses. So the French is obvious. And by the way, I checked. If if you take a loss, do you automatically do a morale check? I could not find that. Now this is interesting. In fire combat, I think the top unit takes the loss, but something else I read under shock combat makes it sound like the owning player chooses. So I guess there's not a difference. I'm not going to do the weakest unit, 3. I have 2 4-strength units. They're both morale E. Actually, they're both identical. So I guess that's same enough. So that's that. Again, I couldn't see anything about morale checks or anything else, actually. I guess one more thing I'll mention, because I did talk about things missing from the online rules. I will mention that I think there's a set of tables that go with the online rules, and I couldn't download them. It was a bad link, so I have not. So the point is, I'm using the new rules with the old tables, and since I haven't yet found the new tables that go with the new rules, I'm thinking that maybe they moved the results, how you implement results. That's for both shock and fire combat. I'm thinking probably they moved. I don't know for sure, but I think they probably moved that stuff to the tables. Whereas my copy has how you implement the results in the text of the rules and not on the the sheets of tables. Okay. I think that's about it for shock. Trying to figure out how deadly this shock is. There's only 16 turns altogether. I don't know. I don't have a sense of that yet. Yeah, I don't.